Welcome to Two Crazy Scoops Podcast with your hosts, Ayo and Antino. This week, we have a special guest. Jose is going to talk to us about various topics, one of them being China and Mexico and how these two things came together. So, I hope you enjoy.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Jose, it is a pleasure for us to have you as a guest, and I mean that seriously. So we've been looking forward to this for a little bit of time. And if I'm not mistaken, you had a chance to do a little bit of traveling this past summer, right? Didn't you come to Arizona?
Yes, I actually remember we arranged to have this recording, but due to my trip, we were not able to have it earlier.
Yeah, which is fine, it's all good. No one knows that. No one knows.
Now they do.
Yeah, they know
now.
now.
I know.
So how was your trip out here? Had you been to Arizona before?
No, this was the first time, and I actually love it. You know, aside from the heat, but yeah, the landscape over there is really nice.
What part of Arizona did you go to?
So actually, it was a 1-month trip. We went to Colorado, and then we rented a car. So we drove around Colorado, then we made it to Arizona. I don't remember what the specific towns. We went to a park in Page.
Oh, okay.
At the lake. We did some canoeing there. It was quite an experience. Very windy.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't think I've been to Page before myself, but I've been
I
to
might have
different
driven
parts.
through it.
Yeah, I don't know if I've stopped by. And you said you went to a lake too, so I don't know if I've done that. I had a chance to do that yet.
You should definitely go canoeing there.
Okay.
It'll be in for a surprise.
Okay. Are there like some rapids and stuff? I feel like I need to look this up.
It's actually northern Arizona, and it's pretty close to Utah, it looks like.
Yeah. So there's due to COVID, there's some reservations in that area, and it's close to the public. So there is a place where you can go, but you have to canoe to get to that place. So on the way there, it was very easy. Canoeing was very smooth. We did our tour, and then afterwards we had to canoe our way back. But it was so windy, and the waves were very choppy, and at times it's like you're canoeing and you're just staying in the same place. So you get to the point where it's like, what do I do? Do I just give up and just wait till somebody rescues me, or yeah, it's like
assuming that someone ever does rescue you. But I would have just given up. I think that's what I would have done. So more power to you for fighting through it.
We made it. Yeah.
How many
I gotta record. I gotta do this recording. I gotta make it. I gotta
survive. How many people were in the boat or in the canoe?
So it was a family trip. So it was my mom, my dad, and my sister and I.
Okay.
So I was with my mom, my sister was with my dad.
Oh, good.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
It's like also I had the responsibility, right? I had to take care of my mom.
Of course.
The safety.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, that was smart. I'm glad you took care of mom for that trip. And so now let's kind of go back a little bit. So tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from originally?
Okay, so I was born in Mexico, but I came to the States when I want to say 12 years old. Maybe it's been a long time.
Okay.
But yeah,
what part of Mexico?
I was in near Mexico City, so maybe about 2 hours away.
Okay.
I haven't been back to Mexico to really live there. I mean, I traveled, but I haven't been back to actually live there. So I'm not really familiar with the geography of Mexico.
Okay.
But yeah, I know. The state is Morelos, which is close to Mexico City.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
And and then I lived in Chicago. We immigrated to the States when we settled in Chicago.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty different climate.
Oh, yeah.
different scenery and everything.
Opposite.
So and you mentioned earlier, so when you were talking about on your family trip, so it's your parents and you have one sister?
So just like any other Mexican family, we actually have a big family.
Mm-hmm.
There are I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. So there's 5 of us. A pretty big family. But this trip, it was only my parents and my sister and I.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And so growing up, what do you remember about being in Mexico? Like, what are some of the things that you remember that maybe you missed when you first moved to Chicago?
Well, like Antonio said, the weather, definitely. You notice the change, especially when we came, it was actually during winter. So,
oh man.
Yeah, it was interesting because we've never seen snow, coming from Mexico. So it was actually kind of cool to see for the first time. But yeah, you get maybe after a couple months, and it's like, yeah, it's about as much as I can take.
Yeah, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But I'm not okay. I'm looking it on a map. I'm not sure if in the winters it's as extreme as New York is, with the sun going down earlier.
Yeah, it's the same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, your days get short, and I hate it.
I don't think anyone living in Arizona really thinks about that, because I would go to work. I would probably wake up like at 6, and then I would walk to work in the dark, and then I'd go home at like 5 in the dark. And I was like, where is the sunlight?
Also, you guys get the same. You get the days get shorter during the winter in Arizona.
A little bit, but it's not as extreme. I mean, the sun probably comes up at 8 and goes down around like what, 7?
In the summer, yeah, but during the winter it goes down earlier.
Oh,
like
maybe just because
little after 5 is dark during the winter time. But the thing is, it's not as drastic because we don't. Arizona doesn't observe daylight savings time, fortunately, which I love. So stupid. And so so that it's a very gradual change, whereas where they do observe it, there's a huge jump and you notice the difference. So yeah, we don't do that, fortunately. So glad.
But I shouldn't complain, because it could be worse, right? It could be living in Alaska.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I wouldn't mind the 6 months of daylight, but the 6 months of darkness, that might drive me a little insane. So so this is kind of a random question, but we are going to talk a little bit about languages too today. So I have to ask you this then. When you did come over from Mexico to Chicago, 2 questions. One, did you already speak English before you came over here? And
no, actually.
Okay, you didn't. So you learned.
I didn't.
Okay. So
you're going through primary school, everything is in Spanish. And then English language was not really taught it's not really taught in school. Maybe now it is, but I remember as a kid I never took any language classes. So when I came here, I was actually I had to take ESL classes. All my classes were ESL, and then eventually I moved out of ESL and just started taking regular classes.
Nice. Do you remember how long that took?
It was actually pretty fast. I think I started in 4th grade, I think, and then by sixth grade, I was in English classes. Okay. So it was pretty quick. Yeah. Okay. But as a kid, you learn quick because you're in school. That's your full-time job as a kid, being in school. So yeah.
Got you. And do you remember that being an easy process, or did you find it challenging?
It was easy, but I felt it a little harder going into high school. That's when I started feeling, because you're going to, like, for example, English classes, and you have to read like Hamlet or like
That stuff is hard for native speakers, just so you know. And I think we already know that now, but for native speakers, any of the old Shakespearean, old English garbage, I used to hate that. And they would quiz us on it. It's like, what does this mean? Thou art this and that. And I'm like, what? No one talks like that. What's the purpose of even understanding it? Let's just let the past stay dead. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. I don't know what anyone else thought, but I used to hate it. I was like, this is terrible. No one needs to learn this. But anyway, so I say all that to say, you should definitely not have felt bad about that. All right, cool. So fast forward a couple of years, you're in Chicago, you eventually moved to New York, which is where I met you.
Right.
And then you started doing some traveling while you were there. So while we will get to China in a second, I wanted to discuss with you a few things before that. What are some of the places that you had a chance to travel to before you went to China? So your pre-China trips. Where did you get a chance to go, and why did you choose those places?
Well, actually, most of my traveling was after China.
Really?
But before that, before that, I just took trips here in the U.S. Road trips in the East Coast. We went to Boston, Washington, Philadelphia. And then actually I remember we took a trip together. We went to Puerto Rico. A group of us went there, and it was fun. Very humid, and but the beaches were really beautiful.
To this day I have not found a beach as beautiful as Culebra.
Culebra,
Flamenco. Oh no, Flamenco Beach, on Culebra. I've never seen.
I actually went back. When did I go back? Maybe I want to say 5 years ago.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I had another experience, a canoeing experience. I don't know, something with canoeing. It's just doesn't go well with me.
Another canoeing.
We were canoeing in a fluorescent bay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we were there, and then you have to wait for it to get dark enough so you can see the fish. They make the water glow. So we waited, and it got dark, and then you started seeing the fish swimming really fast in the fluorescent light. It was beautiful. But then after it gets dark, you have to canoe your way back, but there's no lights. So we were canoeing, and there's a tour, and we're canoeing on our own. So we were able to find a friend that had canoes, and they let us use it. So we were all on our own, and then the tour people, they came, and they were canoeing, and then they started going back. So we wanted to wait a little bit, but we were the only ones. So we decided to just go back with the group. And you're canoeing and through the mangroves. So if it's dark, you're canoeing and you might hit yourself with the branches. Man. So we're trying to canoe very fast, trying to keep up with the tour. And sometimes we were going in circles in the canoe, and we lost our way. But so we eventually managed to get out of the mangroves. But it was scary, but it was a nice experience.
It's so funny. I'm laughing because I actually went back again too after our trip, but it wasn't that much longer. We're talking maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years after we went. Maybe I went back again and did that same trip to the bioluminescent bay and everything. And I remember canoeing through this little narrow channel before you get out into the lake, and it kind of opens up a little bit. So I had a similar experience, and it was a group of us, and it was so funny because I was sharing my canoe with this other girl who was sitting up front, and she was so funny because naturally, like remember when you were saying like in the dark you can't see and you might hit the trees and stuff. Well, unfortunately, she was in front of me, and so I was just canoeing because I was trying to get out of there. I was kind of like, let's go. This was beautiful, but it's time to go. But apparently I kept running her into the trees and stuff, and she was like, I'm like, okay, that's a tree, all right. She was like my alarm for when we were hitting trees. It was great, loved it. But it was funny. We laugh about it. We can still laugh about it to this day. But at the time, she was so bad. She was like, "You keep running me into tree." I'm like, "Well, I can't see. you're my only alarm for the trees." Yeah. Anyway,
you know what makes it scary too is that on the way to the fluorescent bay, you see all those iguanas. You know, they're huge, and you see them in the mangroves, and they're cute. Yeah. But then on the way back, I mean, it's dark, and you have that in your mind. So it's like, if I hit a tree, maybe there's an iguana, it just falls on you. So it's like, just the whole thing is just scary.
Yeah, no, I agree. Although the cool thing about Puerto Rico, though, is that I don't think they have, and I could be wrong, but from what I remember when we were there, I don't think they have any dangerous wildlife. From what I remember, like even the snakes they have are like non-venomous. I could be wrong, but I thought I heard them say that when we went on this little tour to El Yunque. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yunque. Yeah.
Yunque. I thought she said that. Of course, maybe I imagined her saying that because that's what I wanted to hear. So that's possible.
But you know, it takes one animal to attack for the first time, and then it becomes
that's true.
Animal, right? So
that's true.
It's like as of today, we now have vicious wild animals on this island. Thank you, Aaron, for showing us.
That is hilarious. Yeah, that was a very fun trip. Funny stories behind that. The Bacardi factory was my favorite, I think. But yeah, all right, cool. So Puerto Rico is not technically out of the country. So before China, you hadn't done anything international. Well, I guess you went to Canada too, right?
Yeah, but do you really count that?
I don't, but if you ask a Canadian, they may or may not be offended by that. I just think that, well, never mind. I'm not going to say what I don't think it's, you know, it's funny because for me growing up in Michigan, in Detroit, not too far from Chicago, we used to hop across the border all the time. So especially before 9/11. So I never really thought of it as a separate country. We just showed our license and we just went over. Well, we only showed our license when we were coming back. Because going over to Canada was like, oh, welcome, come spend your money, who cares? So I never thought of it as anything. It wasn't until after 9/11, that's when they started kind of being a little bit more strict. And even then they weren't that strict, but they kind of, at least for the first maybe year or so after 9/11, they were a lot more careful about letting people over.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's get to China now.
Oh, wait. So before we get to China, I have a question.
Sure.
So people talk about culture shock. What was the culture shock like from moving from from Mexico to the US? And then I want to talk about, once we get to China, from the US to China.
Well, for me, I gotta say, the food was, you know, you come here and you eat different foods than you're used to in Mexico.
What was the strangest thing to you?
Just the having to adjust to the new foods that you eat here locally. But again, because I came when I was a kid, I think it was easier for me to adjust. I think if I had come when I was older, then probably, you know, having to adjust to new friends. Like here, you go to school, you learn to drive, or probably in Mexico, you have to. I don't even know if people learn to drive in school in Mexico. So I think that's the thing. If I had come when I was older, then I probably would have been more. I would have experienced one of that culture shock. Yeah.
And then moving from the US to China, what was probably the biggest thing for you?
That was more of a culture shock, actually. There was times where, you know, I just got to China, I'd go to bed, and then I'd wake up the next morning, and I would say to myself, wow, I had this crazy dream that I was in China. Like, wait a minute, I am in China.
I am in China. So tell us a little bit about getting to that point. But before you actually went there, first of all, what made you start learning? Like, when did you start learning Chinese, first of all?
Okay, so that was in around 2008.
Okay.
Yeah, around 2008, I started studying on my own here in the States. And the learning process was very slow. Chinese is very difficult. I think the best way to learn the language is you have to submerge yourself in it. So that's when I decided, maybe going to either Taiwan or China would be a good option to learn the language. So that's when I started thinking, okay, if I go to China, it's probably going to be cheaper than Taiwan. It's less. Taiwan is more costly, especially if you're in the city of Taipei. So yeah, I decided to go to China.
Okay. And when you moved there, what were some of the preparations you had to make in order to move there? Like, what did you have to have? And then how long had you been studying by the time you did move there?
So I had studied Chinese for 4 years. But by the fourth year, my Chinese was still it was basic. It was not fully enough to keep a conversation. So yeah, I moved to China and just going to a hotel, trying to communicate with the staff, to get my reservation, and if I had any requests, like say towels or stuff like that, I would not be able to say that in Chinese. So it was challenging, but yeah, coming up with that decision is like, you have to do it, otherwise you're never gonna do it. If you're waiting for the perfect time, it's never gonna come. It's never gonna present itself. You just have to push yourself, and yeah, I bought the ticket, and there I was in a flight to China.
Did you live in did you have like an apartment that you rented out? I know you mentioned hotel, but did you have eventually did you go to like an apartment, or did you rent okay.
So I stayed in a hotel maybe 3 days, and then I had a friend. So they went to the hotel, they picked us up, and we stayed at their place. They had been living in China for about a month prior to my arrival. So they already had their apartments. We stayed at their place, and then during that time, we were also looking for an apartment. I was looking for an apartment to move out of their place. I'm sure they wanted me out. So,
was there a reason why you chose to learn Chinese over another language?
So actually, before Chinese, I wanted to learn Russian, and yeah. The thing with Russian is that with Spanish, things are classified as feminine or masculine. For example, a table would be feminine, or just to give you another example, libel would be male. In Russian, they have something similar, but sometimes it's the opposite to Spanish. So I thought that could be confusing at times. Because for me, something that's male, that's classified as male, would be female. So yeah, it's like you have to relearn it. And yeah, just
So
Chinese.
you chose Chinese instead.
Yeah.
That seems infinitely harder to me.
But the grammar it's easier. I think it's easier than Russian. Yeah. With Chinese, the characters, learning the characters, that's the challenging part. But when it comes to grammar, I think it's easier.
Are some of the mouth formations a little similar to Spanish as well?
With Chinese?
Yeah.
No, they're more similar to, like the pronunciation, it's similar to English. Yeah. I think Russian would be similar to Spanish. They roll their R's. I heard from friends that Japanese is also easier to learn if you speak Spanish.
Oh,
But for Chinese, I think if you have the pronunciation, the English pronunciation, it's easier. You have the same like the vowels, the same pronunciation. Yeah.
So for Chinese thing, because you mentioned grammar earlier, could you give us, like, you said the grammar is easier?
Yeah.
So could you give us like an example of like Chinese grammar, like an
Sure.
example for someone who speaks English?
Yeah. So for example, if you want to say, if you want to conjugate the verb run for he, she, or it, he runs, she runs, it runs. In Chinese, it, he, and she is the same. So ta, pao. So that's it.
Wow.
Pao. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And that is he runs, she runs, it runs. So it's easier.
Yeah, that is. Whatever, because you just saying whatever it is, that thing is running right there. I love it. It's like so much easier. You know how to specify. Yeah. But wait a minute. What about if you wanted to do like different tenses, like past tense or future tense? What about that? Like he will run or it will run if you try to catch it, or it ran. How would you say that?
So at the end, you would add la, and that's it. So ta paula.
Okay. And what does that mean?
He ran.
Ran. Okay. And what about future?
Future, you add hui. So ta hui pao.
Ta hui pao. It will run.
Yeah.
Interesting. That is
another hard thing with Chinese. It's it's a tonal language, so you have to learn the tones. If you change the tone and change the whole meaning of a word or a phrase, so that's a thing that I'm still working up to this day. Getting the tones.
Interesting.
Right.
So have you made any like mistakes with the tones that completely change the meaning? And do you have any like funny grammatical errors that you've made?
Yeah. So just a funny example that I remember is I wanted to say I have an announcement. So to say I have an announcement is you have to say 我有一个宣布. But I didn't say 宣布, I said 胸部, and 胸部 means breast. So instead of saying I have an announcement, I said I have breast.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but it's stuff like that. You just laugh about it and just learn from it. Don't be so harsh on yourself.
Right.
That's how you learn language.
Yeah, right. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were gonna ask me how to say that, weren't you?
Well, I was
gonna learn the word.
Well, I was gonna ask you for the difference, which if you could just isolate the two words again, just so I can hear the difference. 宣布 is announcement, and 胸部 is breast. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So 胸 and 宣.
Okay, that is
very minor.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's very close. And
yeah,
why is it that when you make mistakes in other languages, it always has
to be the worst thing?
Yeah, it can't just be something that means nothing at all. It always has to be some craziness. Oh man,
it always has to be the worst interpretation of that.
Yeah, right. Although I guess English has some examples that people have told me who learned English. It has some things that are similar.
Like beach? When you're going to the beach?
Yes. Yeah, I've heard people make that mistake before.
And even with Spanish, there might be a word that it's okay for people from one country, and then you go to another country and
it's something different.
Yeah. Like I had a friend, she's from Spain, and for them it's very common to say, which, excuse my language because for me it's a bad word, but for them it's not. They say mierda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but for
Portuguese.
For me that would be something that you would not probably will not say it. It's not very friendly.
Got you.
Unless you're from Spain, then that's okay.
Okay. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Portuguese is similar. That word, but that word is not good no matter where you are in the Portuguese. Because I'm trying to think if there's any examples in English like that where something means something bad in one place. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, except for my favorite word, which Antino. So Antino handles all the editing for our podcast, and anytime I say he usually edits it out. Yeah,
it's a drink,
right?
Yeah.
But apparently that's profanity in British English. That's
in
profanity.
British English, yeah.
But to us, it doesn't mean a thing. It's like it doesn't mean nothing. So
you see, when Jose said it, he at least gave us a background, prepared us for it. But Aaron just says it.
But it's just funny because it means nothing. Like if someone said it to me, I wouldn't even blink an eye.
I looked it up what the origin of that was, and it was just confusing, and it didn't really make sense. And I think basically it was like there's nobody really knows where it came from. They just say it. But I think it had some like religious kind of connotation back in the whatever hundreds that they started saying that.
Got you. Okay. Well, yeah, that's new to me too. I never knew that, but I just know sometimes. Yeah, I just think it's funny, and that's one of the beauties of learning other languages and kind of getting involved with other cultures too, because is as as all of us know from experience, you're not only learning the words and the meanings of the words, but you're also learning the way they think. The language, when you're dealing with language, it's not just this person has a different set of words in their head, but they also have a different way of thinking. And so it's a little bit deeper than just the words itself. And so
I after you said that, I've really been thinking about it, and I can't think of any words in English that are offensive to other people in the United States.
Well, I just thought of one. Like, for example, that's a cigarette.
In England, though.
In England, yeah. But
no, I mean like in the US.
Oh, what were you saying? A word that what?
I said, like, in the United States, if I went to another state, I've never like said something that was like offended somebody. But if I've met people from another country, I've said things that offended them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Is there anything that crosses state lines that could be offensive in one state?
Like a north-south thing, maybe like Yankee? Would that be offensive?
I don't think it's offensive anymore because they have the New York or the
true.
Yankees or whatever. But what they've done is every single time somebody came up with a word derogatorily for Americans, they just embraced it. And so now there's like,
part of the
what?
culture.
Yeah, it's part of the culture. They even have that song Yankee Doodle or whatever. Like,
What about terms like redneck and things like that?
Yeah, if you say that, some people like really don't like that. And I never thought of it as that offensive until like you kind of meet people who are from different areas.
But wouldn't they still say that? Like, don't they still say that like in down south in certain areas though?
I don't know. But I think that is a term that like professionally you shouldn't really say it. Like you wouldn't have a news article and be like, two rednecks.
Right.
You don't necessarily say that kind of thing in a professional setting.
Yeah, so I think I guess if we think about it long enough, we might come up with something.
We might just get ourselves in trouble.
I know. You have to edit the entire second half of this episode. Like, well,
and I think for people who speak multiple languages, it's that can be there's another issue that you might come across. Like, for example, like you said, redneck, and like maybe you're thinking of the word like white collar. Like, say you're talking about people who are white collar, and like you just get confused on what you think of like redneck. Or for example, you're thinking of sheets, and because you have to adjust your pronunciation, so maybe it comes out that word. Sheets. So it's something that a person that only speaks English does not have to deal with.
Yeah,
you have to change your mind constantly.
Well, yeah, I think that's another one too, because you can like And you get yourself in trouble. It's always that too.
Yeah.
And it's always something that has nothing to do with the other word. It's
yeah. It's always something bizarre. So going back to China for a second. So the language. So we talked about language. So you're learning the language. You're getting better at it. How was it like living there? Like what would be like your typical routine as far as like taking care of, let's just say, for example, grocery shopping and things like that? How was it like? And how was the cost of living there?
So when I first went there, it was cheaper, definitely. Right now, I think with the economy, everything is getting messed up everywhere. But just you have to adjust to the culture, like you said. You know, people do things completely different to the way that you're used to. Like one of the things that always comes to my mind is eating with chopsticks. You know, you go to a place and no more spoons, no more forks. From that day on, you don't have that option. You have to use chopsticks. So that's one of the things. Also in China, people rely on public transportation, whereas here, you know, you have your car, you get yourself wherever you want to go. But there you have to rely on public transportation, so you have to learn how to navigate, you know, the system over there. And as far as like shopping, it's very easy. Actually, you can go down a street and you'll see little shops, and you can bargain with people there. It's very customary. So if they tell you 10 kwai, you can say, I'll give you 5 kwai, and they'll give it to you. Unless you're a foreigner and you do not speak Chinese. Like I had this time, actually. Let me see, I can show you. I bought this hat.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
So, I bought it in Beijing, and so I asked the lady in English, you know, how much is it? And she said, oh, it's very cheap, very cheap. It's 150 kwai. So I'm like, wow, 150 kwai. It's a little expensive, but it's, you know, it's traditional. And then there's this other Chinese couple. They come and they're looking at the same hat, and they ask in Chinese, how much is it? And then she's like, oh, it's 20 kwai.
Oh man.
So it's a big difference, you know, 150 kwai to 20 kwai compared to 20 kwai. So I started talking to her like in Chinese, you know. I asked her, why are you telling me 150 kwai and you're selling it 20 kwai?
Yes.
And she's like, oh, your Chinese is very good. It's very good for you because you speak Chinese. It's going to be 20 kwai.
Oh.
I got it 20 kwai.
And how much
paid off in the end?
Yeah. Yeah. How much is 20 kwai? How much does that translate to?
So it's 6 kwai to $1. So
you got it for $3 and some change.
$3. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Man.
Compare that to what 150 kwai would have been almost $30, close to like $25.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, that is crazy. Yeah, definitely. I'm assuming that's handmade too.
Yeah, it's handmade, and but yeah, you know, as I learned Chinese and I would go to these touristy places, I would notice that a lot. You know, there's foreigners that go and they buy stuff and they get ripped off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine. But I would also imagine that you as a foreigner, I would imagine you would be prepared for that too. Like, you know, people are going to try to rip you off. So it's like, expect to get paid, you know, to pay more.
Exactly.
That would be my guess, at least. I've seen pictures of different people who come back from China, and they show pictures of like the market where people are buying food off the streets and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I've seen some really interesting things that I probably would never eat, nor would I even have seen.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would. After a couple of years there, I'm sure you would.
Nah, I don't know. You know, I've always said that if you gave me a soup and I didn't know what was in it, I would probably try it. But if you told me what was in it and it was something I didn't like, then I'm not eating it. So that's how I am.
That happened to me. that happened to me. A friend told me, there's this juice that I want you to try. It's really good.
Mhm.
It's good for your body. And I'm like, okay, I'll try it. He didn't tell me what it was in it. And there's all sorts of bugs in there. Like,
Ooh,
yeah.
man.
So, but he told me, yeah, they make it they make it into a juice. They blend them all, and yeah, it's supposed to be good for you.
Lots of protein, huh?
Ugh.
How did it taste?
Oh, it was awful.
Oh,
yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
But he didn't tell you what it was. So you didn't know what it was when you were drinking it?
No, yeah, because it was in a glass, a little glass. It was it looked really cool actually. So I thought, it looks really nice. So it must be really good for you. So yeah, I drank it and it was awful.
Oh man, that is funny. Yeah, man. So when you went shopping for groceries and stuff, is that where you would go? A typical, like, is that how it typically is set up in China? You go to like a kind of like a street markets, basically.
Market.
It's not like you go inside of an actual grocery store, or is there both?
There is both actually. So you can definitely they have Walmarts. They have the Canadian. I think it's Canadian or French. What's the name? I can't think of the name of the grocery store, the chain. But yeah, I mean, you can get it from a grocery store, but you're paying a higher price, definitely. So.
Okay, so you pay more at the grocery store, but I'm assuming what are the other differences other than the price? Is it like
the fun of it? You get to bargain, yeah.
Okay, got you. Okay,
you cannot bargain in a grocery store.
Right. Okay, got you. Okay, and which was your preferred method of shopping?
Both. You have to pick and choose which items you'll buy. Like for example, meat, I would probably buy it at the grocery store.
Okay.
But vegetables or fruit, I wouldn't mind going to a market, an outside market, and
Trying to bargain. Okay. Yeah. Is there anything, like, once you were there and as you spent a little bit of time there, was there anything that you had wished you knew before you went there? That you're like, man, I could have avoided all this hassle if I had known this.
That's a tough question. I think I don't complain about it because I think that comes with the experience. You go there and you don't be afraid of the unexpected. Just that makes it interesting. So no, I think if I had to do it again, I would definitely do it the same way. Go. Just buy your ticket. Go.
Nice. Okay. Was there any like really fun things that you had a chance to do there? Any fun sights, sightseeing or activities that you enjoyed while you were there?
Yeah. So traveling within the country, I thought it was really cool. I got to visit Zhangjiajie, which is a place where they filmed. Let's see which movies. They filmed Avatar.
Really?
I'm not saying that I watched that, or I did. Maybe I didn't. There's also they filmed. I don't know if you remember a movie with Tom Cruise where he's running trying to find his wife.
Oh, Minority Report, right?
No, it's one of the Mission Impossible movies.
Oh, I never saw that one either. I just know that's Tom Cruise.
I'm not saying that I watched it either. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't.
Mission Impossible.
But yeah, she gets abducted, and then he's running through the town, and it looks like.
Was that part two?
It's like a fishing village or something, kind of.
Yeah, they call it the Venice of China.
Oh.
Because the houses are there's rivers, instead of roads, there's rivers. So I got to visit that place. What else?
Did you make it to the Great Wall?
Yeah, I did the Great Wall. It was very tiring, but it was really cool. You get to see it. It goes on for miles and miles.
Wow.
There's another place, they call it the Forest of Stone. The Stone Forest, yeah. So you see it just looks like a forest made of stones. There's rocks all over. It's beautiful. And then the big cities: Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Guangzhou.
Gotcha. I'm looking, as we're talking, I'm just kind of looking at a map and looking at some of the things that they have there as well. What about Forbidden City? Have you ever been there?
Yeah, that's in Beijing. They have a lot of rooms, so you take the tour. You don't get to go to all the rooms, but you get to see some of the imperial places where the kings used to live, or emperors.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about Disneyland? Did you get a chance to go to Disneyland?
No, it's not for me.
Okay.
I'm too old.
Okay, all right. I would have gone. I would have definitely gone. I won't go here. I live, 5 or 6 hours from Disneyland in California. I won't go in there. But if I was in China, I would definitely go to Disneyland.
You know what? I went to an aquarium, and they have the largest tank in the world.
Oh, really?
So you get to see the whales. You're walking in the tunnel, and it's all glass, so you get to see all the fish. You're walking in a tunnel. You get to see all the fish. It's pretty cool.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also reminds me of a scene from a movie too, but yeah.
Finding Nemo.
Right, exactly. Oh man, that is funny. Okay, so you also mentioned that after China, you kind of did some other traveling. So where are some of the other places that you've gone to? That is hilarious. What are some of the other places that you've gone to? And were there other Chinese speaking places as well, or completely different?
So I went to Nepal.
Okay.
Yeah, so they don't speak they don't speak Chinese there. Nepali, I think. I don't know what language they speak, but yeah. So I went there. It was only for maybe a week. So I didn't get to go to. I didn't get to do any hikes in Mount Everest, but I did book a flight. We flew around the mountain.
Oh, nice.
Mount Everest. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh, awesome.
I hiked the mountain there, but they suggest that if you go, you stay for more than a month, because it takes time for you to get used to the high altitude.
Oh.
And yeah, so the mountain that I went to, it was just a mountain in the little city, but man, was it hard to breathe. Just going up the mountain, and I mean, to me, it didn't seem like a high mountain, but it was very hard because the city, it's already in a high altitude level. So I think had I spent more time, probably I would have done a hike, maybe stay in a camp. But yeah, the city was very, also very different. They have temples, and they have a lot of gods that they worship. And like, I remember they had a temple of a drunken god. So people go there, and I guess they get drunk for the god.
And blame it on the god.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is the god of drunkenness. So, hey, when in Rome.
The god of hangovers is right next to
right, exactly. Oh, man. When in Rome, I guess, huh? Or when in Nepal. Awesome. And where else? Where else did you have a chance to go?
I went to Korea. Korea, they speak Korean. Not Chinese, but you can get by with English. A lot of people there speak English.
Okay. Did you go to Seoul?
Yeah.
That would be awesome. That's on my list. That would be
you
awesome.
See a lot of people dressed like with the anime.
Yeah.
I guess they get their costumes, and you see people walking. I went to Japan too, and you saw that. I got to see that too.
That's
people
awesome.
dressed up like that. Yeah.
So what were some of the biggest differences between when you were in, like, your experiences in Korea and your experiences in Japan? Because they're both very, obviously advanced cities.
Yeah. So in Korea, I felt like it was very westernized.
Okay.
Like, yeah. So I went to Gangnam district, you know, Gangnam style.
Yeah.
So I went to that district, and
was that song big when you were there?
A couple years before I went.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 2 years before.
Okay.
But yeah, I went there just to say, you know, I've been to Gangnam. The food in Korea, you know, they eat a lot of kimchi, and they have different types, which I never knew. I thought kimchi was just kimchi, but they have different varieties. It was pretty cool. Yeah. This
is kind of random, but I was just gonna say, in Seoul, for some reason, they are very fashionable over there, which I did not expect. It's almost like a New York as far as the fashion is concerned, which I thought was interesting. And again, I'm going by pictures and different videos that I've seen, but it seems like they really care about how they look.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people, they do like cosmetic surgery, again, because they want to look good. So you see that a lot. Men also wear makeup.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, so it's part of their culture.
Okay. They want to look young forever, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
All right. And then in Japan, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were talking about Japan.
So in Japan, I went to a ski resort and skiing, and a lot of the resorts, they have what do you call them? Hot springs. So it's really cool. You know, you're spending the day skiing, and then after a long day of skiing, you get to relax in a hot tub, and afterwards you go to a buffet and you get to eat and call it a day.
Nice.
As far as the city is really nice too. You get to see like the Tokyo Tower, which is pretty cool. The food, you go to these places, and you have to pay for the food. It's like a fast food kind of thing, but you pay for it in a machine. It looks almost looks like a casino machine. Put in the coin, and you hear the coin going in, and then you get a ticket, and then you get your food. They deliver it to you. So I thought it was pretty cool. I tried sushi. Tried some sushi. It's pretty authentic. And the houses, all the houses are maybe 2 levels. They don't have any high-rise buildings because, you know, there's a lot of earthquakes.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of parks, a lot of drunk men in the subway, I noticed. The people get really stressed after work. I guess men after work, they get drunk, and especially if they're going through a hard time. So you see a lot of, like, sometimes you see some drunk people.
Maybe I need to go to Japan.
Yeah.
When you're in Japan, did you go to any of the restaurants where like the sushi goes? It's like on a little conveyor belt.
Sushi bar, yeah. It was really cool because, yeah, you know, you get to look at it first, and that doesn't look good. It doesn't mean that it doesn't taste good. But yeah.
Did you get any like kimonos or any souvenirs from Japan while you were there?
Or a katana?
Yeah. Please tell me you got a katana. No,
I flew economy, so
okay.
I was limited on luggage, but yeah.
Now, did you do all this flying while you were still living in China, or are these separate trips?
They're separate trips.
So you weren't living in...
Being in China, I don't know if this is what you mean, but I didn't go to all these places at the same time. So the way it works is you have your visa, and then you're required to leave every 60 minutes. Every 60
Oh man!
I wish
every 16 minutes.
Every 60 days. 60 days, or sometimes they have 90 days. So it depends on your visa. So you have no choice. You have to travel. You know, you have to get out of the country. So you use that as an opportunity to travel to those places.
Awesome. Okay, I get it. So you were traveling. Okay, so you were in China. So you leave after 60 days and you go to Nepal and you come back. And you go to Korea and you come back. Were those flights expensive, or are they pretty inexpensive since you're flying from China?
They're inexpensive, yeah, especially if you're not locked to a certain time frame. If you're pretty open, you can get really good deals. Yeah, like I spent probably $100. Was it $100? Like $120 to Japan. I remember it was
a round trip.
Round trip.
Wow. Yeah. So jealous.
Yeah.
So we got Nepal, we got Korea, we got Japan. Anywhere else?
So I booked a flight to Hawaii. This was 2019, right before the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was really excited because I'd never been to Hawaii, and it was like $400 round trip from China. So I looked at the deal and I'm like, I'm on it. I'm gonna buy the ticket. I bought it, and then after buying my ticket, it was like you have to book your hotels. And I'm looking and surfing looking on the search engine, and all the hotels are really expensive. So I was not counting on that. That the hotels were expensive. So I'm trying to find a friend that knows maybe a friend or a friend of a friend. Yeah. One of those kind of deals, and I was able to find accommodations. For part of my trip, I had to stay in a tent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't
but
mind.
I got the tent because it was the cheapest thing, and still it was really expensive. It was like staying in a hotel, like in the continental US, but a tent. So yeah, just.
Was it a tent on the beach? Because I would have been fine with that personally.
No, it was a like a hostel.
Oh, a hostel. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So there's people inside. There are rooms, so people they can book the rooms. But if you're poor like me, then all you get is a tent outside in the garden.
Oh man!
But still, we were like maybe like 5 minutes away from the beach. It was very convenient.
Okay. Nice. So
is Hawaii? Is Hawaii as good as everyone says it is?
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. I did the road to Hana. I don't know if you guys have heard of that place. It's a very winding road. You have to drive. I drove maybe like 2 hours to get to the end, and you get to this rocks, and then there's black sand beaches there. And the water is turquoise blue. So imagine the turquoise water and the black sand.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
That is awesome. I've never been to Hawaii, but I almost went for free on my job. But it's a long story. But we opened. I used to work at Whole Foods, and they opened up a new store, the Queen store, on I think it's on Oahu. And so they were looking for people to go help. But the problem is that my boss didn't really say anything to it until they had already, filled up the spots. And I was like, dude, why didn't you tell me? Oh, I didn't know you wanted to go. Who would not want to go? It would have been free. I would have got paid.
Yeah.
It would have been a free paid trip to go help open up a brand new store. I was very disappointed. But
the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah. And but it is what it is now. But I was very upset when I found that out. I was like, you should have told me. And I could have transferred out there too when I was working for them, but I would have been living on the beach. There's no way with what they pay, I would have been able to afford anything but maybe coconuts for my food every day.
Go fishing.
We could have been neighbors.
I know, right? Yeah, seriously. Okay, so you were in Hawaii in 2019. Okay, and then at some point you came back. So when did you come back to the States? And when did you come back to the States?
So I came back 2020, February of 2020.
Okay. And was it because of the pandemic or no?
Yeah. Which was pretty funny because I was traveling. It's the the winter holiday in China. So I went to Thailand. So I was in a trip. And then, I hear all these rumors of not rumors, that it was actually facts, that there was a pandemic. And then, I decided to just come back to the States. So I came back from Thailand. I didn't go back to China.
Wait, so didn't you have your apartment and stuff still there and all your stuff?
Yeah. So that's another story. Yeah, I had to return the apartment, and my things I left all my things there. And some of my things are still there. So I'm still trying to manage to get some of my stuff back.
Wow. But it happened a lot worse in China initially, correct?
Yes. That's the reports that I got. In China, people sent they would send the videos that they have, like their YouTube, and you would see reports where the doors are being chained and people are not being let out.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons that I did not want to go back to China.
I think I kind of picked up on it, and I was seeing that same stuff with like people in hazmat suits, and they're like gassing the streets and stuff.
Yeah. So that was the reason that I decided.
Well, that's a good reason, but
yeah, that's a good reason.
So I'm just kind of curious now, if you can just give us a quick synopsis. You don't have to go into detail, but how did you arrange for your stuff? And like, is it in storage somewhere? Were you able to get somebody to come put it up for you? Or how did that work?
A lot of my stuff was thrown out. They got rid of it. Yeah.
I would have been like, yo, can you put it in storage, please? Don't just throw my stuff out. I will come back.
No such thing in China. They don't have like storage companies.
Can you ship it to me? Can you ship it? Here's my address. Mail it to me. I'll pay you.
I've been looking into getting a ship. The problem is I have a drone, and because of the battery, it cannot be shipped in
because it will explode.
Yeah, so it has to be in a carry-on or
a drone. You said
I have a drone. Yeah.
Well, can't they? Doesn't have a removable battery?
Yeah, but how are they going to ship it?
They can't ship it because of the battery. You said, correct?
Right.
So can't they just take the battery out and ship the drone to you? You can buy a replacement battery.
Oh, that's. I think you're onto something. Good idea.
Because I'm assuming that it's a standard size battery that maybe you can find somewhere else. Whereas the drone, the fact that you want it says to me that it's probably a pretty good drone. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm hoping maybe because there are other friends that I have that are living there, so maybe if they get to come back, they can bring it.
Okay.
But yeah.
Oh, so they do have it though.
The drone, they have it.
Okay, good. Okay, good. At least you got something salvaged.
Yeah.
Man,
the hotel, the apartment, I didn't have the best relationship with my landlord, so I didn't feel bad. I told her, by the way, I'm not coming back. You can pick up the keys at this location. And yeah, she was mad, but yeah.
But I mean, there's nothing you can do though. It was a pandemic. Did you explain that to her? Like, look, lady.
Well, yeah, she didn't get it. That's why I said we had a really bad relationship. So I didn't feel bad. She was very demanding. Like, no, I gave you the keys. You have to be here. You have to give me the keys.
Have you not watched the news? Look, I ain't spending no more time with you. I would have hung up. Yeah. Oh, like, look, last month's rent is in the mail. Bye.
Yeah.
That is funny. Well, that's not funny about your stuff, but I mean, that's crazy how that worked out. But I'm glad you were able to at least get something, at least one of your items out of there.
Right.
And then, okay, so so now you're back in the States and you're going to be here, I'm assuming, until at least the duration of the pandemic.
Forever.
Calms down, possibly.
Yeah, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here forever.
I doubt that. I seriously doubt that. You don't seem like the person who would just sit around in one place for very long. Because you're back in Chicago now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm hoping. I was talking about Mexico. I've never spent any time there, so hopefully I get to go visit and travel a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see what happens in the future.
I told you this before, but I was gonna say, if you want to come to Tucson, you're more than welcome to visit. I will make sure I have a spot for you.
It's like the boring Mexico. That's what Tucson is.
Right, and we're right by the border. So if you want to come here first and then go across the border, I mean, Tucson is like a little Mexico, but if you want to go across the border to Mexico, you can do it from here.
Only if you promise to go canoeing with me.
I will do that.
Are you up? You're up for it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm up for it. And believe it or not, I just actually applied to renew my passport because my passport has been expired for a minute. So I actually just renewed it, or I'm getting it renewed, but I have to wait for it to come in the mail. So yeah, man, definitely. If you want a trip or you want to get away from the cold, let me know.
Okay.
Winters are very mild here, so
yeah.
Well,
think about that. Did you want to do the audience questions real quick?
Oh, sorry. We have okay, so when we told the Instagram.
Actually, I have to go pick up my dad from work.
Oh,
I'm sorry. We are holding you up. I'm really sorry.
Right now I have to get to go, but if you guys want to keep recording after I get back, if you guys want to connect again.
Yeah, if you want to finish it up.
Yeah, it's completely up to you. We don't. Yeah, if you want to come back, cool. But I don't want you to feel.
So I'll go pick him up. It'll probably take me about half an hour.
Okay.
And then finish up.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you.
So I'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Okay. All right. Cool. See you.
Bye.
Now we have to keep the podcast going for half an hour.
I know, right? Dude.
No, I'm just kidding.
And I'm sorry, I was looking at my time, like I need to wrap this up. But it's just so much stuff, though. It's so many, and I mean, there's a lot more we can talk about because we only scratched the surface of his trips. What did he do in Thailand? What was that like? Where did you go in Thailand? You know, dude.
Well, the fact that he was in China during the beginning of that was kind of crazy. That he went to Thailand, I think.
Yeah.
Because they got the information first, and then we got it. So it's kind of.
Yeah.
I remember like seeing videos of like doctors and stuff saying like, hey, it's like bad. It's really bad.
Yeah.
But
oh my goodness. That is insanity. Yeah, the timing of it all is crazy. So
I'm just gonna mention real quick that there were questions on here that I feel were kind of answered, but there was a couple that there's probably like 3. It's not like we're gonna be recording that long again.
Oh wait, he's coming back. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
It's like, guys, great news. My dad's overtime. Has to work overtime.
Oh man.
Okay, somebody's covering for me, so we can continue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Well, thank you for whoever's covering for Jose. We greatly appreciate it. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
So when we actually a lot of times when we have guests, we'll actually post on Instagram some questions based on the person who's going to be here. So we kind of told them the topics. Yeah. So we told them about China, and if you have any questions, it looks like some of them you may have already answered, but there are some that you have, I don't think were answered. So these are our listeners' questions for you.
Okay.
So somebody asks, what's it like living in China as a foreigner? I think we covered that. Also, why did you decide to learn the language? We also covered that. Someone asks, do people in China hate fortune cookies?
They're non-existent in China.
They're non-existent in China. That probably gives you a good answer.
Yeah.
Seems like a very American idea.
Someone said if they could get a number 4 with extra sweet and sour sauce.
Hey, is sweet and sour chicken or whatever really a thing in China?
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they do have, but it tastes different than
better.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more authentic.
Yeah. Go figure.
Okay, someone asked, is Hong Kong part of China? I've heard it's like its own city country.
City country.
So it's they call it an autonomous area, which means that they have their own legal system. It was an arrangement that they had with England, I believe, and the arrangement was that after a certain amount of years, it would be handed over back to China, but with the condition that it would keep its autonomous status. So right now, that's one of the issues that is going on. China is trying to take it back, and it's losing that autonomous status. China is trying to implement the Chinese law into China. So it depends. Depends on who you ask. If you ask somebody from China, if Hong Kong is part of China, they'll say yes. If you ask somebody from Hong Kong, they'll probably say no.
Oh.
And they're still fighting about that now, though, right? There's a lot of fighting back and forth about that.
Right. Before it was a democratic region, so people had the freedoms that we have here for the most part. But now people are like protesting, and they're being sent to jail. So that's they're losing their freedoms. Another good thing of Hong Kong is which I love to go there shopping, because there was no tax. So like if I wanted to buy a iPhone or an iPad, I would go to Hong Kong. There's no tax, so it's cheaper than here in the States.
Wow.
Wow.
But with everything that's going on, I don't know if they'll probably start taxing if they lose that autonomous status that they have.
Mm-hmm. Someone else asked, is it true that people in China have no problem making fun of your accent in front of you?
Do they make fun of my accent? Yes, actually. See, for me, actually, another thing that they make fun of is because of the way I look. To them, I'm not like a foreigner, because when they think of a foreigner, they think blue eyes, light skin, blonde hair. But they actually have a minority, which you've probably seen in the news, the Uyghurs in China, to camps, not concentration camps, but just camps.
Yeah.
And so people in China would assume that I'm one of the Uyghurs. For me, actually, I went to a restaurant once, and it was a Uyghur that started talking to me in their language. He assumed that I was one of them.
Really interesting. Interesting. Because I'm looking, because from a distance, maybe you could pass for Chinese from a distance. From a distance, if you squint, I wouldn't be sure. Okay.
Which is nice, I like to blend in.
Yeah.
I don't like to stand out, so it was nice. Yeah.
I would stick out like a sore thumb.
Because for many years Chinese were so close to the outside world, so sometimes, especially in the villages, if there's a foreigner that goes there, and especially if they're blonde or actually black people, so with their curly hair. I remember a Chinese person was just touching her hair. They go in and just randomly they'll take a picture of you. Yeah. So I might be famous in China right now. I don't know. Maybe.
They you would not believe what I saw walking around earlier today. This weird looking creature. I'm gonna text it to
you. Oh man.
Yeah. That's me.
So the last one, I sent you a picture of it, Aaron, if you can put it on the screen. But they asked if you can successfully, or I guess even just say it. Can you read this poem? It's called The Lion Eating Poet in the Stone Den. I'd never heard of it before.
In Chinese?
In Chinese, yeah.
I probably can't. They use the poetry, they call it Chinese. And I didn't get to study any of those. form of their poetry is very different.
I'll show it to you then because I thought it was interesting.
Go ahead.
I usually just edit out these dead parts here, so.
Okay.
It's not super clear.
That and Aaron's swearing, huh? When he
Yeah, that and Aaron's constant, continual.
That's funny. Advanced sharing options. Sorry, every time I try to share, it's always some stuff.
Well, there's no audio involved in this sharing, so you're fine for once.
I don't even know if you'll be able to really read this or not, but.
Oh, is it too small?
Oh.
It's kind of blurry.
That is blurry.
Yeah.
Is that real? Like, is this really?
So let's see. The first character means stone. So stone, I cannot see very well, or
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It's hard to, like I said,
but it's all
blurry.
It's all It's the same. All those characters. So you remember how I told you that if you change the tone of the character, it changes the meaning.
Uh-huh.
So that's what's happening here. You know, all those characters, they're pronounced. All of them, they're pronounced sh, but they have different tones. So the first one, sh, 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 sh.
And this is a real story, like a real poem.
I don't understand that myself, but yeah, it looks like it's a poem. It says there it's a poet named Sure. No, I think live in a stone house. I don't know if it's real, but I think it's just like a tongue twister, a Chinese tongue twister.
Oh.
Okay, because that would be funny if that poem was pronounced like that, but yet it said all of that under translation. That would be like amazing.
I don't think it's a poem. I just think it's a tongue twister.
Oh, okay.
I heard similar to this one.
That is pretty funny. Am I still
it all depends on the pronunciation of the tone.
Okie dokie. Well, that was all of the questions from our audience. Our very small audience.
Yeah, only 3 people.
Do you know why you have a small audience?
Why?
Because you haven't been on it.
Because of COVID.
Oh, there we go.
They're afraid of China.
That is very possible. Are you still seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I've been trying to stop to share and it won't. It looked like it froze or whatever, and I keep hitting exit full screen. So I apologize, but it's.
If you kick it, it'll work. Trust me. Just kick it really hard.
Apparently.
Right in the monitor.
Yeah.
Just full force. You gotta do that spin kick.
Oh, maybe
you gotta say sure.
Right.
Oh, I'm sure he's saying that right now.
Yeah, in my head, that is exactly what I'm saying. Nothing works. I keep hitting pause share, it won't work. Stop share, it won't work. Nothing. Exit full screen. None of the buttons are working, and I'm afraid that if I exit,
you made the drunken god angry, Aaron.
I know, and I'm afraid if I exit out of it, it might just close the whole program. So anyway, I apologize for that, but yeah, I don't want to mess up our recording. So technical difficulties, we'll just have to work through it. But yeah, Jose, thank you so much for being a guest, and we really appreciated hearing your stories. And I feel like there's so much more we can ask you, but we will spare you the torture for this time, and maybe we'll come back around. Maybe if you can come back on in the future as a guest in the future, maybe we can get to some more, because I'm curious to hear more stories about Thailand and more.
Thailand is beautiful. I did a lot of diving in Thailand, scuba diving. So that's maybe the topic for next time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we want to definitely hear more. But man, this has been really informative. I learned a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. I also enjoyed being in your show. Thanks for inviting me.
I just got really hungry for Chinese food, so and sushi.
That's
Oh man, that is funny. Well, yeah, thank you again, and hopefully we get the chance to have you on, again in the not too distant future.
Okay, no problem. It was nice chatting with you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on one second. We're gonna close out the show first.
This has been Two Crazy Scoops podcast with your hosts Ao and Antino, Jose, and Chinese food. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. And thank you for everyone who submitted responses, our listeners, and you guys have a great day or night or whatever's left of it.
Irresponsible licencia de manejar.
But this is still look great. I know. Great.